Hi English learners, welcome back to class. As you know, I am Laura from laurasenglishclass.com. Today I have 24 words that come from brand names. Now, as you know, there will often be a company that releases a product that is so popular, people will start calling all of the things that resemble that product by the brand name or the company's special name for it. Or there will be a company that releases a product that is completely new and there is no other name for it. Today we're going to talk about words like this. Now, it's really important to recognize these words that come from brands because the English-speaking world is not a unified market. That means that a product that comes out in the US and becomes the everyday normal word for such an item may be a different word from what they use in New Zealand or South Africa, for example. So it's good to know these brand names and then also some generic versions or the other way you can describe such a product if there is one. Sometimes these objects don't really have good alternatives, and we'll get into that in just a moment. Now, of course, I am not endorsing or recommending any of the products I talk about today or am showing today. I'm just talking about the language use. So let's get started with 24 brand names. Here we go. First off, there are three words we need to talk about, and those are brand name. Of course, we have to know what a brand name product is. Also, what's a generic product? Generic. And lastly, what's a knockoff product? So, a brand name product, the thing that we're talking about today, means that the product is from a really famous company. Everybody recognizes the name of this product. So it's going to be something from a company that's famous, like Dolce & Gabbana or Louis Vuitton, something where everybody looks at the item and they're like, oh, that. Right? It's going to be a little bit more expensive. It's like Coca-Cola versus just a bubbly cola drink. Right? The brand name would be Coca-Cola. Everybody recognizes that company. Everybody knows that product. So the next one that we need to talk about is the other one, the generic one, the cola drink, if you will. You look at it and you know that the product is basically identical in function to the brand name, but you don't recognize the label, the name of the company that makes it. It's not like prestigious, nobody cares. But it's cheaper, so a lot of people will buy the generic version of things. The generic version is usually not going to become a regular vocabulary word. Next, you have the knockoff version. Now, the knockoff version is sort of the illegal counterfeit version. So it is the Dolce & Gabbana or the Coach handbag that you buy on the street of New York City from somebody who is selling off of the sidewalk, and it's only $15. And you look at it and you go, made in China. No offense, China. It's a little bit of a stereotype, I know. But it's going to be one of those things that looks like the brand name and pretends to be the brand name, but of course is absolutely not. We're not going to really talk about knockoffs or counterfeits today, just talk about those brand names and generic words. And we're going to organize our list of 24 into some different categories. We have things at home, things at the office, things out and about, and tech words. So we're going to start off with things at home. The first one is something that I really want to get in my house. It would be so nice to get one of these. It is a jacuzzi. Jacuzzi is just a really famous brand for a kind of hot tub. So if you are not talking about the specific jacuzzi company, you should technically be calling it a hot tub, but people usually just say a jacuzzi, no matter what company makes it. Number two is this one, a Kleenex. Kleenex is another word for tissue. This technically should be a tissue because it's from Big Lots. It is the cheap version, the generic version of a Kleenex. So very often people will say, oh, will you pass me a Kleenex? And really what they mean is, just pass me a tissue, please. All right, the third one is another object I have right here. I use this word all the time. It is chapstick. Now, I call this a chapstick but it's actually on it. It has to say lip balm because it is not the company Chapstick. So I have just a different kind of lip balm, but I always say, oh, where's my chapstick? Oh, there's my chapstick. So chapstick is another way to say lip balm. So the fourth one, I don't have another name for. This baby clothes that is all in one piece, it's got the pants and the shirt all together, is called a onesie. Now this comes from the company name, so technically anyone else who's making something like this shouldn't be calling it a onesie, but I honestly have no idea how to say this in another way. Maybe a one-piece baby suit? I have no idea. The fifth one, I also don't really know how to describe in a different way. It's so normal to just call this a popsicle. A popsicle, I suppose you could say a freezer pop or an ice pop, but popsicle comes from a specific company, but in general in the USA, Americans are just going to call this a popsicle, regardless of what company it's coming from. Our sixth one is not very popular in France, but it's very popular in the USA. It is Jell-o. Jell-o is another word for gelatin. It's pre-sweetened, very easy gelatin, but it comes with the sugar, it comes with the coloring, and it's very easy to make with children, and you just get a little dessert of wobbly, red, sweet gelatin. Okay, the next one is one I use very often in the wintertime, and especially now that my oven is broken, I use a crock pot. Now, a crock pot we can use to call any of the objects that look like this, which could be described as a slow cooker. A slow cooker. So you put something inside of it, close the lid, set it for like 6 or 8 hours, and it will slowly cook the thing inside of it. The most popular brand is Crockpot. People usually call slow cookers crock pots. Number 8 is a Ziplock bag, which is a resealable plastic bag you can store your leftovers or your sandwich for lunch in. You could call it a resealable plastic bag, but it's a little bit longer. People usually just say the brand Ziplock. Number 9, Tupperware. Tupperware is a really famous brand that makes these little plastic reusable containers that you can store your food or your leftovers in. They have special ones you can do things like bring cupcakes to a party in, things like that. It's sort of food containers. So you could call it containers or food containers, plastic food containers, but usually people will say Tupperware. The next one is a kind of vacuum flask, maybe? I'm not sure how I would say this in a generic way without using the brand name Thermos. Thermos is what we call any container that has a vacuum sealed compartment in it that will keep your beverage or your soup or whatever hot or cold for as long as you keep it sealed. Right? That is a thermos. A vacuum flask? I'm not sure about the generic one on this one. If you know it, let me know below. The next one, I really don't know what to call it if you don't call it the brand name. This is Velcro. Velcro is that stuff that sticks together so you can close your shoes for children and you just pull it off and stick it back on. Or sometimes for costumes or for other clothing, you can just Velcro something shut. I honestly have no idea how you would describe this without calling it Velcro. So this is an example of a brand name that is really the only option I can think of. Again, if you have a better way to describe Velcro in a generic way, let me know below. Band-Aid. A Band-Aid is a type of bandage that comes, of course, from the biggest company that does it. It's the famous brand that if you cut your finger, you're going to put a Band-Aid on it. It's a little type of bandage. Now, of course, you can say bandage, but when people hear the word bandage, they're going to think of something you're wrapping around your finger. If you say Band-Aid, it's really clear it's this little bandage that sticks. That's it. Starting off our list of things in the office that come from brand names is the Xerox machine. So people will often talk about a copy machine, or that big machine that will copy pages, as a Xerox. And it's even become a verb. You would say, can you Xerox this for me? That means, can you make a copy of this using the copy machine, please? So Xerox is the brand name. People use it commonly to say copy machine or to make a copy. Yeah, that's a good one. The next one is Scotch tape. Scotch tape is a kind of narrow, clear plastic tape. So if you are wrapping a Christmas gift or something like that, you're going to use that clear plastic tape, the Scotch tape. Americans will very often just say, could you pass me the Scotch tape? Scotch tape. Great. Or tape. You could also say tape, but Scotch tape is going to be really specifically that kind of clear plastic tape. The next one is Post-it notes. Post-it notes are these little things that you can stick up to put your notes on. You can put it up somewhere to remind yourself that you've got something to do or something to buy. You could call it, I suppose, self-adhesive note paper, but Post-it is a lot faster. It's so popular, everybody will know what you mean when you say a Post-it. The next one is another really popular one I happen to have here on my desk. It's a Sharpie. This is a kind of permanent marker, so you could call this a black permanent marker, but people will just usually say a Sharpie because it is the most popular brand of permanent markers. They come in all shapes and sizes, and actually I personally like them a lot, but again, I'm not endorsing any products. You do you. All right, the last one here, our number 17, is something that you will use maybe during your commute as you're going down into the subway station or the metro station or MRT station, or maybe in your office building. It's not super tall, so there's that staircase that moves, the electronic moving staircase, I guess you could call it in a generic way. This usually is called an escalator. So escalator is actually the company name, which many Americans actually don't know that comes from a company name. They just call it an escalator. All right, the next one is in our next category of things out and about in the world. Probably escalator could have been on this list, but it is a seeing eye dog. So if you see a person who is blind and using a dog to guide them, it actually should be called a guide dog, unless they have been trained specifically at this one center that has the brand name trademarked of seeing eye dog. Next is a very popular sport, ping pong. Ping pong is actually the brand of table tennis. All right, the next one is a dumpster. Believe it or not, dumpster comes from a brand. People like Escalator don't remember that this was a brand, and it just seems like any large garbage bin on wheels is supposed to be a dumpster. But I suppose if you're going to say the generic name, it should be a large garbage can on wheels. So usually people just say dumpster. Dumpster is so common, you even have expressions using this that are idiomatic at this point, like a dumpster fire. 2020 is a dumpster fire. We can get into that in a vocabulary lesson later. All right, the next one is Jeep. Jeep is maybe less used nowadays, but it can be used to refer to any sort of off-road vehicle that's open on top. Right, so an open on top off-road vehicle or adventure style vehicle can be called a Jeep. Or you can say that it's an off-road vehicle, or use whatever other brand you've got. Right. Okay, our last group of words are tech words. Now, I think this could be in the office section, of course, because in the office you're very likely to use a PowerPoint. PowerPoint, of course, is from Microsoft, and technically, if it's not Microsoft, you should be calling it something like a presentation and graphics program or something like that. But people will always just say a PowerPoint presentation. Or you could, I guess, say a slideshow. All right, next one is Photoshop. Photoshop, of course, is coming from Adobe Photoshop. Really popular way to change images, especially like magazine images. They're photoshopping models, things like that. But it can be used to talk about any application that is changing an image, right? People will say that they're photoshopping their image even if they're using some free online brand. Of course, again, if you're a company, you have to be very careful about this because it's all sorts of legal issues, but in everyday speaking, we're just going to say Photoshop. The last one is super common. It has become a verb because anytime you want to search for information on the internet, people just say, Google it. Oh, just go Google it. Google it. So Google, of course, has taken over the world. You're on YouTube. Welcome to Google. So you can just say, Google it. Google it. So this one, Google it. It's kind of a tricky one actually because it's a lot of g. And it's got the dark L as well. Google, Google, Google it, Google it. So Google it, you could just say search for it. You can really see that this company is much more popular than, for example, Bing, because you would never say Bing it. Yeah, you would rather say search for it online, right? Search for it online, do an online search, Google it. So those are our 24 brand name vocabulary words for today. So of course, it's important to know the generic version if there is one, because these are words that we use in the United States, but not necessarily in the rest of the English-speaking world. So keep that in mind. If you have any questions or comments, let me know either below or over at laurasenglishclass.com, where of course you can sign up for your free weekly email lesson. You can sign up for your next online English course with me, or if you'd like to, you can join our field trip. We're taking a virtual field trip through my capital city in Montpelier, Vermont on December 19th. Now the deadline for signing up is coming up. It's December 14th, so please sign up quickly if you are interested, or send me a message if you want to know more information about it. All right, that is it for today. I hope that you and your family stay safe, and I will see you online very soon. Bye-bye.